Hello, you're listening to the Neil Lamptey Show. My name's Joey, and I'm joined by Paul.
All right, mate.
And by Neil.
Hello.
And by Dom.
Hello there.
Hi, guys. Right, okay, so moments of the week. Neil, I'm going to throw to you to go first.
Moment of the week is a weird one for me because it's football related, and it's even weirder because it's about our goalkeeper. But I want to give it to Morosi for that save from McGeady at the weekend, which I know we'll go on to talk about the match, and the response to the game was, we were unlucky to not win it, but to make that save that he did at that point, I thought that was his best save of the season, I'd say by far. It was fantastic to get down to his right, really strong hand, and it was absolute rocket on a wet pitch. So yeah, I haven't given him much credit this year because I haven't quite known what to make of him, but in the last couple of games I've seen quite a few decent saves, so he's going up in my estimation.
I wanted to talk about him today in a bit more detail because we've talked about everyone else, we haven't talked a great deal about him. I sort of feel like he's quietly going about having a really good season. Is that fair?
I think it's becoming less quiet now as well. So he's being forced into doing a bit more. I think up to kind of the first couple of months, he was doing well with the ball at his feet, but he wasn't. My kind of assessment of him was he wasn't really saving much. He wasn't actually stopping the ball going in the net, so it was kind of coming at him, and but there wasn't anything which was like a real obvious save that he should make. It's only recently where he's actually started to throw the saves in there as well, and obviously that's all I want from a goalkeeper: save goals, pass nicely. That's all that we need. And yeah, he's coming into his own now. He's not quite as kind of erratic with the ball at his feet as he was early on in the season. He kind of scared me a little bit, but no, I think he's moving on. He's looking good, and like I say, that save at the weekend was a big statement. I didn't know if he had that sort of save in him, and he did.
Are you one of these troglodytes that wants their goalkeepers to make saves at the moment? Haven't you realised that football's moved on past the idea of a goalkeeper keeping goal?
I know, I really need to get with it, but there's something about saves. They're amazing.
For goalkeepers to stop the ball getting into the net is, it's nice. I guess I get
old school.
Yeah, I mean, you could almost call it retro now. It's quite a good, maybe it's time, maybe it can go full circle and people can want their keepers to save goals again. Dom, what do you think? Moment of the week.
I am going for a moment that didn't happen this week, but the week before. It was the goal scored against Rochdale by Liam Walsh. And it was sort of just one of those things where you see something incredible happen on a football pitch and it sort of almost slows down, and sort of just each sort of take on each time he beat a player is like, well, that's as far as he's going now. That's pretty good, but come on, you're not
that's
really
pretty good.
doing anything with it. Oh, he's beat another one. Okay, now he's got to do something with it. There was that final one where he put a Rochdale defender on his backside. It was sort of a little reminiscent of Bright last season, where you just do that extra piece of skill just to completely wrong foot the opposition and then put it in the net. It was one of those things where I was aware that something incredible had happened, but it was only until I watched the goal back on like the highlights later there, I was like, all those things happened in the order that they appear to happen in, and quite a bit faster than I seem to remember. So it's sort of that anatomy of an incredible goal.
Is it me or it's the first bit of that goal absolutely brilliant where he just drops his shoulder and suddenly goes like, I'm going on a run. And he's just like, he legs it. And he's like, yeah, okay, I'm going to do something. It's like when you're in the playground and you just sort of think, oh, fuck this, I'm going to do something now. And he just went on, he just turned up the gears and off he goes. And yeah, that was like, it was just a total change in momentum. And he just, out of nowhere, he was just motoring. And now, everything, obviously scoring was great, but drop of the shoulder, lovely.
I had one of those weird experiences where when he hit it, it seemed like there was a delay. And when you're at that angle and you're like, I'm not sure if that's gone in or it's gone the wrong side of the post. So I didn't celebrate to start off with because I didn't want to be the guy who was celebrating a non-goal.
Welcome to my world.
Yeah, and then the ball, and then everyone ran off cheering. And you're like, so I didn't really cheer. I just giggled because it was the whole thing was preposterous. And it was just, it was just, you don't see that very often at any level, but at our level, it's just even more odd to see a player just, do what he did, and he did it with quite a lot of style. I mean, it was about his 10th shot of the game, so he was due one that finally got on target, but it was an amazing goal.
I just think about if you break it down to all of the kind of individual, like, how would you describe them? Points of obstruction, like kind of, every time he beats a player or every time that there's an opportunity for that to not end up as a goal, let's call, just for argument's sake, maybe 10 different instances. If you think the probability between him specifically picking up the ball and that goal being scored, it's almost like defies belief. You just
that goal does not happen again.
Yeah, never in a million years. But it's sometimes if a player hits like a 50-yard drive and it somehow goes in, you'd be like, wow, he's not likely to do that again. But you think about how unlikely it is for ever to him to go on a 50-yard mazy run into the box and whack one in. You're just like, what? It's like, obviously everyone's like, oh, if Messi did that, and that is the most fucking inane observation to make in that. But with even a player who was like a forward, you'd be like, wow, they're not unlikely to do that again. But defensive midfielder Liam Walsh just trekking upfield and being like, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. You'd be like, you should do that more often, mate.
It was a bit like a superhero in a final fight scene, wasn't it? Because it was almost like, I've got a special move, and it took one man out, and it was like, actually, I've got another special move, and it took another man out. And you were like, and then at the end, both of them converging him at once. It was like, this really is quite, this is quite heroic in the way you've done this. Yeah, it was quite nice to see.
When was it? When I used to live with my mate Tom, who's a Celtic fan, he used to rave to me about Paddy McCourt, and I think I've probably talked about Paddy McCourt a few times on the pod over the years. And he used to say, you've got to watch these, and we used to watch these YouTube goal compilations from sort of like 2010. This was when they were first starting to come about, and it was like Irish music intercut with like a still of the Irish flag, and then it'd show another Paddy McCourt goal, and then it'd be like, the Celtic huddle, and then another Paddy McCourt goal. But largely what he was doing was running in a straight line past men falling over. Like, it was literally, he wasn't, these stunning dribbles that my mate was telling me about were in fact just the worst standard of defending that any human's ever seen. But what was amazing about Walsh was that when I heard about it, because I wasn't watching that game, when I heard about it, I was like, this is going to have Paddy McCourt written all over it. There's no fucking way that he's literally, and then you watch it, I was like, oh my God, you've actually beat them players. That's actual dribbling. Magnificent. Right, Paul, your moment of the week.
And I said before the pod, he did it on the best day to do it ever, because he did it on the day where there was no Premier League football, and it was the only thing on YouTube, and the only thing on Twitter, and the only thing everywhere was like, and it was called like Leon or Dave in different things. There was about 10 different things, and not one of them got his name right. And he was like, player of the day, and it's like, yeah, okay, and it's like, he was amazing, wonder goal, and it's like, yeah, if the Premier League had been on, no one would have noticed or cared. So he picked the perfect moment to score an absolute screamer. My moment of the week is about perceptions before a game or preconceived ideas. And I think we all sort of agree that maybe Bakayoko isn't the player that we really like at times. However, in the first half on Saturday, he had a really good game. And he really worked hard and made Sunderland's defence look pretty poor. And he was at the forefront of us being on the front foot and dominating that first half. Yet, enough people around me were still going, you're just shit. And it's like, he's not. You're lazy. Well, he's not. Oh, Bakayoko's fucked up again. Well, he hasn't. And it's just, I just feel like sometimes players deserve the credit for the game they're having. And it's like, hands up, been massive critical of Carl McFadden. Last 2 games has been fine. In fact, he's probably been better than Michael Rose in the fact he's had good games. And that, you just got to go on what you see in the game. But it's just like the amount of abuse that Bakayoko was getting. For what? And sort of, I was just on to go, well, we considered an equaliser because he wasn't pressing. He went off after the 75th minute. Hawula touched the ball 4 times in like 20 minutes. He literally did fuck all. Slag anyone off, Hawula was shit. Yeah? And not only was he shit, he wasn't involved. He didn't get involved. He didn't have the presence to put Sunderland under pressure. Slag anyone off, Hawula's a fine target. Bakayoko, I'm sorry. You've got to give the guy credit. He had a good game. Yeah, his touch lets him down. Yeah, he probably could have scored. But also, I don't think if he doesn't play the way he played on that game, we don't have half the opportunities because he was the man creating the space for the others. So if a player has a good game, just give them the credit they deserve.
I also think that I think we struggled more defensively when he'd gone off because he was a handful, wasn't he? He made things difficult for them, and I think they got more of a foothold in the game when they got the ability to be more composed at the back. But that said, I agree with you, but I also agree with the people having a go at him because it's difficult. I thought your assessment of him was right. I thought he was very difficult to play against, and I thought he worked really hard, and I thought he made the team better overall. But also, he was playing up front on his own, and by that metric, you need somebody who's going to be a goal threat. And he had 3 chances at least in the first half, where just you never for a second thought that there was any hope of any of them going in. And I think it's possible that it can be both. I thought he played well by your measure of it, but those people having a go at him probably were fair to have a go at him because this is a lone striker who offers a 0 goal threat whatsoever.
Okay, I accept that, but also I've seen Godden have far worse games, do far less for 90 minutes, and not get slagged off by anyone. And the reason he had those chances is because he created them. Yeah, as I said, he probably could have done better with some of them. One of them's a great block by Jordan Willis. Another one's quite a decent save. You know, it's a bit like I know we're sort of going on, but it's like the header in the last second. He's thrown himself at that ball. He hasn't missed that header because he's missed the header. He's literally thrown himself at the ball, and the ball's going to go anywhere at that point. Any striker would have been in exactly the same position. But because it's Bakayoko, it's, he's missed. If it had been someone else, it'd been, he's got there ahead of the strike. It's like he did what he needed to do. For those 60 minutes, when we were on top, especially in the first half, he was major fulcrum in that. And no, he's not. I don't particularly rate him as a footballer. I don't think he's particularly good. But he's up front on his own. And as I said, we've seen lone strikers play far worse than he has this season and still not get criticised half as much as he did in that game. And it's just the reason we died off in the second half. Like, it wasn't just him. It's like lots of other players got gradually worse and gradually more defensive. We'll discuss it later. But just give him the credit he's due. Yeah, he missed some chances. At the end of the day, everyone slags him off for not getting the chances. He got in the position to have those chances. As I said, we've seen other strikers this season who haven't even had the chances. Right. So just think on that one. I think Bakayoko does give credit or review the game on the game that's in front of you, not because your preconceived ideas that Bakayoko shit before he's gone on the pitch. Well, because he wasn't on Saturday.
I guess the challenge for him is do it again. Let's not just do this for 60 minutes because we know the Bakayoko pattern, which is have a performance like that where he does work. And I think people are saying calling him lazy is just wrong. You can't say that man is lazy because he is running around. He scores all his goals from not being lazy. It's from running a lot. But I think the frustration with him, and it's the same with a few of our players, is that it's so fleeting. You have this period of time and you look at him and you think, okay, perform in that manner, we'll be happy with you. But he'll do it, and then he'll go for 3-4 games where he doesn't offer anything close to that. And it's, I think, not. I don't really want to defend people not judging the game on its merits because I think we do that too often. People just hate players and they hate them regardless of what they see. But I think there's also a measure there where you look at a player's overall performance and there's just an overall frustration with him, and that's building up. So what he needs to do is just okay. You've got a lot of work to do, but you need to perform like that now. You're playing up front by yourself. Do it again. Perform for 3-4 games in a row of that sort of level where you're at least impacting the game. It will turn people. I'm pretty sure of that. It's just, ultimately it is down to him. I don't think he's like Kevin Kyle levels yet where people just refuse to give him any sort of a chance. I think, he's still got his song. He's still got people, desperate for him to do well. And if he scores goals, people, they love him. So it is in his own hands.
Let's be honest, the song is more ironic than a love thing, isn't it?
It is.
They're slagging him off. Of course it is. But
the song is basically slagging him off in a sort of friendly way. It's like, I'm going to take the piss out of you. And that's what the song is, isn't it?
It's kind of light-hearted, isn't it? But it's also done with, I think there's an affection there. I don't think it's I just think it's like an affectionate song.
Yeah,
yeah. There's no sort of malice in the way people say it. He's just a wally because he goes offside all the time.
amongst other things. Yeah. Right, just for completeness, the moment of the week for me was after the Rochdale game, looking at the table and then trying to reconcile the fact that we were third against my memories of this season, because I just couldn't work it out. I kept thinking about how we hadn't won away from home, and that we haven't got any forwards at the moment that aren't. I feel like I had forwards at the moment. Bakayoko and Castaneer.
It's amazing, isn't it?
and we were third. And I know that there was a lot of people with games in hand and stuff like that, but that even still you do think this is got sort of vague, although it's not totally the same, vague shades of that Mowbray season where all of a sudden we looked the next week and we were 12th and you're like, oh, right, okay, that's what's basically everyone's in third. It's just that we were the most in third at that point.
Of that week, yeah.
I see, okay, right, I'm with it now. But then weirdly, if we get Biamu back and everyone's hoping that Jody Jones comes back and isn't crippled by 2 ACL injuries, I don't know. Right, okay, so let's start with Rochdale. Dom, give us the lowdown.
Yeah, so I'll try and be as broad strokes as this is possible, considering it was 2 weeks ago. So I suppose the main thing to bring up from the game was that we continued with the formation that we used against Colchester in the FA Cup, which was accommodating for the fact that we either don't have any fit or available strikers aside from Bakayoko or players that Mark Rummins wants to play in the case of Castaner. So what we ended up with was 3 at the back, 2 wing backs, you got 2 central midfielders, and then you had Jordan Shipley and Zane Westbrook playing as in that sort of space between midfield and attack. They covered a lot of ground. They were quite dynamic, I thought, in the positions they took up. Occasionally they dropped deep, or they'd be looking to get into the box, which we obviously saw with the goal that Jordan Shipley scored, which came from Zane Westbrook picking up a position just inside his own half towards the right wing and playing that ball over the top for Shipley, who was bursting through on the other side to be the farthest forward player and getting them behind that Rochdale defence. They just about stopped Shipley scoring the first shot. On the replay, it is also quite clearly a handball from the Rochdale centre-back, but Shipley makes sure it goes in by tucking in the rebound. So it was quite interesting. Also, how you were talking about Bakayoko earlier, where it was like they played well within their own sort of individual standards, but I'm not really sure it contributed to an effective team performance. So quite often during the game, Rochdale seemed fairly content with us passing the ball around. We also had that overload in midfield from essentially having 6 midfielders. And while we were creating a fair few chances, wasn't too many clean chances. There was a big chance for Bakayoko in the second half, which doesn't look very good at all on replay.
You mean the one where he missed from a yard out?
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't look too great, does it?
Doesn't help himself. I've got to be honest. He's not a man who helps himself. Yeah.
So it just felt like having a lot of midfielders and then having Bakayoko in front of that wasn't really contributing to a particularly incisive performance. I thought that during the second half, Rochdale became a little cagier. They sat off us a little bit. I thought in the first half, they combined pressing us and counter-attacking us quite effectively. They put up 3 strikers against our 3 centre-backs, which left us quite isolated, considering also that Liam Kelly wasn't playing. But in the second half, they sat off us a little bit, and I wonder whether they were just like, I'm not sure they're going to do too much with the ball. Obviously, the goal that Liam Walsh scored kind of comes out of nowhere. It doesn't really come out of the pattern of play that we established. So although I thought there were a number of quite good individual performances, Zane Westbrook, I thought just the way he floated around, creating 2-on-1s, linking the play was quite effective. Jordan Shipley got himself on the score sheet. Liam Walsh scored a fantastic goal. And I thought in the second half of that game, sort of the range in his passing to spread the play from flank to flank. Could have been quite effective had we had a little more up front. And then Dabo and Mason at wing back, they played with a lot of energy, played a lot of width, and fair degree of accuracy in their crossing. And then the final thing I want to bring up about this game was the two youngsters making their first league starts, Josh Eccles and Declan Drysdale. And again, I thought there were good individual moments from them. You could sort of see what Mark Robbins would have been seen from them in training. Some decent passing from Josh Eccles, but I think overall didn't really impose himself on the game. I suppose he kind of had a hard job too, playing alongside Liam Walsh in a two-man central midfield there, where I don't think either of them was quite clear which of them was really the holding player and which one was going to get forward. In the end, Walsh sort of took upon himself to play more of the box-to-box role, which kind of left Eccles exposed at times against quite an experienced Rochdale side. And then you had Declan Drysdale, who made two quite big errors in succession, which ultimately led to Rochdale's goal after a couple of phases of play. Just didn't seem quite up to the speed of the game earlier on. But
don't you think he was a bit unfair, though? Unfairly dealt with in terms of being the two wide players of the back three is definitely the hardest. And Rochdale worked out that Mason was getting forward. There was a massive gap in that channel, which they exploited twice within about, and they never really exploited it after that, which was quite odd. And it was just, you just felt for Drysdale because it was, if you're a centre half, you know where your parameters are, because you're not normally caught in the position that Drysdale was, because normally that's where your fullback is. And he was caught in this really horrible position. You were like, if you're going to bring in Drysdale, put him in this middle and leave Hyam where Hyam's been playing really well on the left of that back three, because that's a difficult one. The difficult one is the two side players, because you've got so much more scope. There's so many more threatening areas. But the centre one, all you've got to do is read the game. And after that, he made those two mistakes. He then made a brilliant recovery and tackle to stop them basically going 2-0 up. And you were like, that's more of a natural centre half's job. He's covered the run and he's put in an amazing block. And that block really did help us because it kept it. I think we scored not that long afterwards. But I didn't really blame him for the two where he was, because if he's never played in the back three before, it's quite an odd, or at least he's obviously never played league football before. It's quite a difficult position to play, and I felt he was a little bit hung out to dry in that, because just put him in the middle. It's the easiest role.
That block was a big call, wasn't it? He was taking everything at that point. He flew in. At the time, I was like, well, that's a bit of a risk, but actually, sort of think, yeah, that's a good block. That's kind of just natural instinct coming to the play, and I think he did it a little bit later on as well. He kind of flew in. He was just I guess it was just youth, and just wanting to win the ball at any sort of opportunity. He'll probably rein it in maybe over the course of his career, but those are a couple of like, I'm just going to win this ball. I don't really care what's going to happen. And they could have become a little bit mistimed, but I think he got away with them.
I think for that it was the fact he spotted the danger.
Oh, it was good. Yeah,
and,
it was great.
And that's what impressed us more, was the fact that he was there with it, but it was the fact that he could have done a couple of other things. He could have stuck more with his man or stuck in his position a bit more. And it was the fact that he'd made that decision that that's where the danger was. So I'm going for the danger.
Yeah, that's natural, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think the thing is, after he had been at fault for those two, or been perceived to be at fault for those two chances, I think it could have been a lot easier for him to play safe and just hold his position. I don't think, if he hadn't have made that block, I don't think anyone would have gone, Drysdale should have made that block. Do you know what I mean? It was a brave decision for him to make at that point, to actually sort of sacrifice a little bit of discipline to really make that challenge. And I think he deserves a bit of credit for that, because
definitely, yeah,
it was a massive decision. Like I said, at that point, I mean, the only other thing I'd say is I did think, and sort of I think Dom's alluded to it, I did think Rochdale were probably on top first half, and our first goal was again out of nothing, where it's a great ball by Westbrook, it's a great run by Shipley, but you didn't see that goal coming. If anything, you saw Rochdale going 2-0 up. And I think, if anything, that's probably quite a good sign of this team. It can score goals when things aren't quite going their way. But we're such a fine line team that, Rochdale probably deserve to be leading at half time. And again, going back to what Dom said earlier, I completely agree with him. And I was really surprised by their passiveness in the second half. They just, until we took the lead again, they weren't overly bothered about attacking us. They were quite happy for the game to just bob along. And I've seen quite a few teams like that this season. And I think it's where the teams just they seem quite happy with what they've got. And it was just a bit odd with the way that Rochdale was a slightly better team first half, that they were so happy for us to dictate play second.
I wanted to ask a question of Dom about why he feels we've been so successful at pulling points back from losing positions this season, when that has tended to be the opposite of what we do, is to go one ahead and throw it away. But I think we're now the team in the division that's got the most points from losing positions.
I suppose one theory I posit from this, and I wrote an article today that's on sorrysammy.com, looking at sort of why our away record isn't why we haven't won on the road. So one of the things I looked at was that we have conceded the first goal once away from home, and that was the Rotherham game, which we lost 4-0. The other times we've conceded the first goal in a game has been at home. We've won 4 of those and only lost 1. I just wonder whether the level of control we have over our home games, whether that's just leading to things tending to fall in our favour. Well, I think if you look at a lot of our comebacks, there hasn't necessarily been a sustained period of pressure. I suppose the only one I really remember was the AFC Wimbledon game. And even then, when the goal came in the second half, again from Liam Walsh, it had looked like the game had kind of petered out. And we just managed to grab that goal from somewhere. I just wonder whether us being sort of more of a controlled team this season is just generally why things just seem to be landing in our favour a little bit at home when we fall behind.
Can I put forward an idea, a theory?
Yeah.
I don't think anyone's going to be able to stop you.
True. Okay. Basically, on what you're saying, I think, and having witnessed the last couple of games, I think one of the things goes back to something that Neil said when we had Mowbray in charge, is sometimes we have 3 or 4 gilt-edged chances, but not put them away in an attitude of, it's all right, we'll get some more chances. And against Fleetwood at home and against Rochdale at home, both of them went 1-0 up. And both of them, you were like, you've got your chance now to go 2-0 up. And they never did. Like Fleetwood, I think one of their strikers tried to chip the keeper in like the 30th minute or something. It was like, you're 3-1-1. You could make sure you scored this, but you tried to chip him and he didn't chip him. And you were like, that could be your chance to go 2-0 up. And we never, I think, other than the Rochdale game, the Rotherham game, the only other game we've gone 2-0 behind them was the Blackpool game, where we came back to win 3-2. But again, we went 2-0 down quite early, but by half time we were square again. And the amount of times we've been behind at home, and then the other team have sort of gone, we 1-0 up. That's all right, we'll cope with that. And because we are relatively stable at the back, we don't concede that second. So we're always in the game. And then when we equalise, people are still like, I'll take a draw. And then we get another goal. And it's like, oh, shit. And we've seen it quite a few times. We've gone 2-1 up or we're taking the lead. And then suddenly the other team's like sparks back into life. And it's like, that's a bit of an odd... Why didn't you do that from... I said, why didn't Rochdale do that all second half? They were the better team first half. But they weren't bothered until we were 2-1 up. Then suddenly it was like, oh, we need to have impetus in that game. The difference away from home is because we take the lead quite a lot, we then, in the last 10 minutes, 20 minutes, sit deeper and deeper and deeper because we have quite a... It's, as I said on Saturday, it was very... You see the stats of where Shipley and Westbrook and Bakayoko ran. They ran all over the shop. They were, after 70 minutes, they were done. And the subs, like, they were either too late or just they weren't the same quality. So Sunderland, in the last 20 minutes, basically had the run of the game because we couldn't hold the ball up front. We couldn't put them under pressure. So they could build out from that. And you look at the amount of goals we conceded. away from home in the last 3 or 4 minutes when we've been leading the game. And you're like, is it because we don't have a quick player on the bench to bring on? Like, really like Callum O'Hare, but he came on against Sunderland. He was like, we're punting the ball clear because we're under pressure. And he's trying to win this ball that's in the air. At home, when he comes on, we're chasing the game, or where it's drawing, the ball's on the, as Tom says, it's more controlled. We've got the possession because the opposition aren't coming out at us. So the game's sort of evenly split between us and them having the ball, or us getting more possession. Away from home, because we're under pressure, and we're still trying to play it out from the back, but we're too deep, because basically we're playing a line of 5 and a line of 4, and then a massive gap in the striker. We can't clear our lines. We can't, and we don't counter-attack because we don't have anyone who can hold the ball up. So we concede a lot of late equalisers away from home because we've basically sacrificed the last 10, 15 minutes to make sure we don't lose. But we never go 2-0 up. When we dominated the game again on Saturday, we had the opportunities, but we never went 2-0 up. If you go 2-0 up, you can concede that goal. You've got that clear gap. And you look at the table, I think Fleetwood are 7th, aren't they? Their goal difference is +9, and then everyone else in the playoffs is in double figures. And ours is obviously only 3. Because, okay, you can say the Rotherham game sort of inflates that negatively, but we've only lost twice all season. We've won 7 or something, but our goal difference is still only +3. Because we don't hammer teams. We don't go 2-0 up. We don't go 3-0 up. We don't put the game to bed. So there's always, and especially because we don't put the game to bed, there's always that opportunity for opposition to dictate the last 10, 15 minutes against us, which I think is resulting in these draws. I think it might be a critical thing that we don't have that 20-goal striker. The other thing is, if we don't keep a clean sheet, we tend to lose. It's, you have to go back to August since the last time that we scored in a game that the opposition didn't. The only other, I think we've had 2 other clean sheets from them, which were both 0-0 draws, and that's against Rochdale and Accrington at home. So we're not, defensively, we're not keeping clean sheets either. We don't score a lot, but we're not as defensively sound. Which is why we are where we are. As I said, we should probably be higher in the no, we're 5th or whatever, but we probably should be, considering we've only lost twice all season.
Yeah. On top of that, if you look down the league at teams that have played 18 games and have only scored the amount of goals that we've scored, you'll find Accrington are the next ones down, and they've scored 24, which is 1 more than we have, albeit I suppose actually they scored 7 at the weekend, didn't they? It probably skews that one ever so slightly. I think overall it's just been an odd season so far, hasn't it? But you started to talk about the game on Saturday, Paul, so I'm going to lead you neatly on to that to carry on.
Saturday is a bit like the Milton Keynes game and the Bolton game away from home, where ultimately you're playing a team with very little confidence, who aren't very good, and you should be beating. So I'm having crisps. And ultimately, we were the better team in the first half, but we didn't take our chances. Obviously, we got the goal from a set piece, which is a bit unusual for us. Another good ball in from Westbrook, and then a great defensive header, if anyone spots this, by Liam Kelly.
Was it Kelly who did that?
Yeah, it hit the back of his head. And then Rose kept it alive, and Hyam scored from about a yard. And it wasn't beyond, we deserved to be leading. We were the better team. Sunderland are an odd team. They've got a manager who likes to play a particular way, who's replaced a manager who plays a different way, and you can sort of tell the players are caught in this sort of unknown decision. Their new manager wants them to play direct and a bit quicker upfield, but they've got Will Grigg up front, who isn't a striker who wants the ball played anywhere other than his feet. So, and they've got quite a lot of tricky little players. What was the name of the guy who came to Cov and scored against Milton Keynes Dons? Maguire. Yeah. He spent the entire game arguing with the linesman and the referee. If he'd have been involved in the game, they'd have had 11 players. But he decided he was going to argue with the ref all game. And you were like, that's not how, his manager should have been on him going, just fucking leave that. That's that. You can't change that. Affect the game. And he got so wound up, his touch was awful. And you were like, okay, so that not only are they out of confidence, but the players are obviously not in a good place because they're making it easy for us. And we probably should have been 2-0 up. As Bakayoko had his chances. A couple of times Shipley was in great positions. We didn't quite play him in. Westbrook, I think Westbrook's been really good recently. And I think going back to the Bakayoko miss against Rochdale, what pleased me most about that was it was Westbrook who put the ball in from like on the 6-yard line. He's now breaking into the box and getting in areas where he's pulling the ball back for people to have chances. He's obviously got that great pass, which he's done to Shipley a couple of times recently, but he's also getting into the box. He's driving into the box. He's creating space. He obviously really if you look at the heat map on who scored, our biggest sort of blob of heat was in like the right wing back position where him, Dabo, Walsh play a lot together, and that's where we seem to sort of play out from that sort of unit. I think Dabo had twice as many touches as Mason on Saturday, which I think shows how much we're dominated down that sort of axis of those three. And there's a team there. There is a team there. The problem is, as I said earlier, we're not turning that domination into 3 points. And the other thing is we're not then dominating for 90 minutes. And we got to half-time, the better team. And the second half, we came out and we started a bit slowly. And then I think Shipley had a chance, which was good, well saved by the keeper. But that was sort of it from our chances. It got more and more. Sunderland just got a little bit more into it. And Westbrook and Shipley and Bakayoko clearly tired. And they were, because they run, the thing about both Shipley and Westbrook is they don't just stick to one side. They both run both channels. So they put a lot of effort in, a lot of work, both offensively and defensively, which is difficult to sustain for 90 minutes. And ideally, probably all three of them would have gone off after about 60 minutes, 65. But we just hung on that little bit longer. And Sunderland, without, Neil, obviously, I talked about the chance they had earlier. In his moment of the week. Other than that, we were keeping them at arm's length, but you can't keep giving the opposition time and space just outside your area, because at some point someone can provide a pot cross or pass or shot which is difficult to defend against, and you were just we're sitting too deep. And as I said, Huula came on and did nothing. O'Hare came on, and it's just he's not. You want him on the ball at his feet in a bit of space with players around him, not isolated trying to win headers. And he couldn't get involved, and you just could see, obviously being Cov fans long enough, you can see that equaliser coming. The question is, will we hold on? Are Sunderland that bad that we can actually let them have the possession for 20 minutes? And there was probably a pretty good penalty shout against Shipley when the ball definitely probably hit him on the arm. And the reason I say that is because a bit later, about 10 seconds, 20 seconds afterwards, someone had a word with Shipley and he sort of flung his arms up in I think I got away with that one type job. And then they got the goal, which is scrappy, not the best. But again, if you're going to have, I think Sunderland have 5 or 6 players in the box, if you can't clear your lines, it's going to fall to a guy who's going to score from 5 yards. And
we should have, shouldn't we? We should have cleared that. I mean, rather than just scuffing it into your own player. Was it McFadden? If he just smashes that ball away like a proper person, we don't concede that goal, then we're probably home and dry. But it's just one of those moments where you sort of think panic set in. He just had this little flurry of 5 seconds where he slashed at the ball, and then he just said, well, I'm going to try and fix this. He threw himself into the mix again, and then just started kicking everything that was moving, kicks the ball against his own player, and it's just like, guys, I mean, there's panic, and then there's just that. That's overboard. That is. So, for the guy who's supposed to be our main man in defence, I thought that was not great defending.
No, and it's sort of one of those ones where you're not. It's really hard to reconcile whether or not I thought a draw was a fair result in terms of, because we were so good first half, but because we didn't go 2-0 up, you always leave yourself open to the fact that the opposition will get decent chances, and I know it's people like Walsh, and I don't mind Walsh. I don't think he's brilliant. I don't think he's crap. I think he's fine. My issue with Walsh, to some extent, though, is he's still making the same lazy passes in our half. And he does seem to give the ball away quite cheaply in quite odd positions at times. And I know you can say, well, that's the nature of his game, but sometimes it just feels like he's just taken his mind's gone. He's not played the bad pass because he's a bad player. He's played the bad pass because he just hasn't thought about it. And again, it's sort of illustrating that in the first half, he broke into the edge of the box and then played his back heel. And you were like, but did you not think there must be... Who did you think the back heel was going to? What was your awareness there? What was the plan? Was there a plan? Because you played a back heel like you had a plan. And we're an odd team, because obviously we're an odd team. We've lost twice, but we still don't seem to be able to win. We're an odd team. In fact, we're fifth, but if we're not dominant, like considering we played more games than most teams, we're not dominant fifth, where we could be seventh by the time teams play their games in hand, or we're floating through the season. So if you look at the stats, we're not that different from last season. But some people are going, oh, if we had a goal scorer, it's like, yeah, but everyone was saying that last season. If we had a goal scorer, the thing is, we don't, and we're not a bad side. We're just not. We're just an odd side. We've got odd players.
I kind of think, after everything you just said, it seems odd to say this, but I think we're mostly a superior side when it comes to playing every match this season. In a lot of the things that you look at, I think we are superior. I mean, and it does come down a lot to what you're saying about just not putting your chances away and then either being punished at the last minute. But I go back through the season and I can't think of too many games that we haven't been, in my mind, the better team, the superior team. Even like, Sunderland, we were the better team. And then our approach to the game changed. We didn't finish off the match. We should have scored 2 or 3 in the first half. We should have consolidated our position as a superior team, but we didn't, and then something goes wrong. So obviously the converse to that is, well, you can't be that superior if you're not able to finish off a match, and I totally get that. But I think as a kind of a standard that we're setting for ourselves, I think we're just about where we should be at the moment. I think because every team that plays us, even what gets me is this team is a piecemeal. We've put it together really by luck more than anything else. This isn't our ideal team. It's just come together because this is all we can do. And it's still managing to be a superior team against good quality opposition. I mean, Peterborough as well. We were really good against them. We should have won, and we didn't. So I think there is a lot to look at. You sort of think, well, while we might not be fashionable, because Westbrook and Shipley doesn't necessarily strike you as a fashionable attacking combo, seems to be doing quite well.
It is also a product to the fact that we've got injuries if you look through the course of the season, I know everybody gets injuries, but Godden, Jones, Hiwula, Allen has been unfit the entire season. Biamu only just came back. Help me out, guys, because there's a lot more, isn't there?
But yeah, but
Jabello,
Kelly's been in and out. Jabello. Yeah.
But didn't Rochdale play one defender against us because they've got 3 injuries at the back? And that's the thing.
But I think we're all in this. There's a number of teams in the same boat. I'm not saying that.
League One, isn't it?
It is, but I do think that's a fierce number of injuries to contend with. And I think to whoever's point it was, is that, Neil, you described us as a piecemeal team. I don't think Robbins went into this season with a plan of, I'm going to play Bakayoko up front with Zane Westbrook and Shipley behind him.
Totally,
it's not that's not a plan, is it? At the moment.
Or 3-5-2. That's not what he's going to be planning.
Yeah, and I think he probably will go back to that as quickly as he can get Biamu back on the pitch, despite what he was saying earlier about Biamu needing to play his way back in. I don't think he's really got an option, has he? Because I think Hiwula did too poorly when he came on, and Bakayoko ran enough to warrant playing again, didn't he? But I just think that I do think we've been a bit unlucky, but I also think that you can mitigate some of that by not having 8 midfielders in the squad. Actually seemed to be, as soon as Kelly hinted at being injured at the start of the season, he was like, quickly get as many midfielders in to replace him as possible. But it just has left us a bit light of wide players. But I think, all things considered, I do think Robbins gets a lot of credit, I think, for us being he has sort of glued us together in such a way that we are still fifth. And I know that it's probably on the balance of things. Once everyone's games in hand are played, we're not in fifth. But I still think it's okay, isn't it? And I think it's harsh to be too critical. I don't think anyone in here is being overly critical about sort of what's going on, because I sort of think we're making do and mending at the moment, aren't we?
I think we're good.
Do you think it's as good as that, really?
Honestly, I think we're kind of. It reminds me of previous seasons where we're not. I don't think we're doing as good as we should do. The points we've thrown away, and everybody else throws away points. Blah blah blah. But I do. I watch the matches and I see us playing in this way with the players that we've got, and we're still looking the better team, I think, than others. But that's probably me, my Cov hat on. But yeah, I do. I think we should have our eyes on those top two. Yeah, I said it.
I think we're just an odd team because the two of the victories I've seen recently, Fleetwood and Rochdale, both teams, we could have been 2-0 down at half time and probably would have lost. And then second half we played better and we came back to win. But there were definitely long spells in both those games, probably said majority in the first half, where we were sort of outplayed for long periods. And as I said, I was really surprised by the fact that Rochdale just sort of at half time, just the goal, whether or not they were just happy then with the draw, but they were so passive in the second half. It was quite strange to watch because they had worked out that we had that massive gap in our left back position and they exploited it twice in 2 minutes and then didn't bother with it for the rest of the game. But again, I think that's who you're playing against. You're playing against League One teams who aren't that bright. I think we are. I know this is an obvious statement, but I think we are where we are. I think once Boxing Day is probably the time where a lot of teams are going to catch up their game in hand because we don't play, and it'd be interesting where we are at full time on Boxing Day because that's probably when we're going to finally get some sort of equilibrium. But I said the whole league is an odd. We've played 10 home games, or 10 home games in the inverted commas. Burton have only played 6. That's just weird. We played 4 more home games, and their home form isn't particularly. I'm not saying that if they'd have played all their home games, they'd be above us because I don't think they would. But it's just odd the way that the whole division is just all out of kilter. Just everyone's out of kilter. There's teams who've got 3 games in hand on us. It's just needs something to settle everything down so we can have a proper judge of where we are. It would just be nicer as we played more games that we were absolutely, doesn't matter what the results are, we're cemented in the top 6. And unfortunately, I just think by the time games are filtered through, I think we'll probably be about 7th, which is still good, and it's still a great building block. It's just, with the fact we've only lost twice, it's just a bit frustrating.
That's the thing. It's all of the strange kind of anomalous... the indicators on their own don't add up to a whole, do they? You would think that a team that had lost 2 this season would be higher than where we are, but you'd also think that a team that had only won 7 games wouldn't be in the playoffs quite so comfortably.
Well, Blackpool have only lost 3, haven't they?
Yeah, good call. Yeah.
It's just and they're 9th, and they're about 2 wins outside the playoffs.
Yeah. It's almost like it's almost like people are printing this table, but if someone's actually sat down to do the maths, it would all be in the wrong order and everyone's just believing it. Yeah, possibly. Right, okay, so, Dom, should we move on to Ipswich unless there's anything else about Sunderland anyone wants to discuss?
The booing of Jordan Willis was a disgrace. I was never his biggest fan, but he didn't leave us for anything other than he just left at the end of his contract. He isn't a Coventry reject. He just left. And Burgess' kicking was really good. Who knew?
It also is. Who was it that put it on our WhatsApp group? All of the people kind of saying, "Oh, if we've got any hope today, it'd be to, whack crosses up his throat to flap at or whatever." You just think, yeah, okay. How did that work for us, guys? No, completely not at all. And also, was that his problem? Was that just felt like it was someone retrofitting because he's a goalkeeper? Just thought, oh, that was what the problem was. There wasn't a problem, and as well, even whatever people didn't like about him, I didn't think he ever really came off his line for crosses.
I think people didn't like him towards the end, did they? I mean, the season we got promoted out of League One, he was very dominant in his penalty area towards the end. And there were quite a few games where he came and claimed things and calmed the game down.
Yeah, actually, yeah, you're right.
I just think people it was, as you say, it was almost like, oh, I don't like him. And I think we all agreed that he had to leave. He had to.
Yeah, he had a bad end to things, didn't
he?
Once he knew he was going, he didn't give his crap anymore, did he? Yeah.
No, and I think, but I think he's gone to Sunderland. He's now first choice. He's a good goalkeeper. In the discussion you had earlier about our keeper, I think our keeper's fine as well. I don't think he's a step up on Burge. I think he's fine. I think both of them are perfectly acceptable in League One. I don't think either of them are amazing. Either of them are shit. We've got a okay, fine goalkeeper. He's not Kieran Westwood, but he's not. I was going to say Ryan Allsop, but he's playing for the team at the top of the table. So,
Yeah, and also reporting homophobia apparently, which I was really pleased to see. Did anyone get wind of that?
Oh yeah, I did see that. Yeah,
was Tranmere?
I don't know who. I missed who it was against. Apparently, he was getting homophobic abuse, which I think it was just standard. And he reported the guy who did it, and he got arrested.
There's a guy on Twitter
Fantastic.
There's a guy on Twitter. The fans can say what they want. It's like you feel like going, okay, we'll get a couple of hundred quick people. We'll all give you a £5, and so you got to stand 20 yards from us, and we can say what the fuck we like for 45 minutes.
Yeah.
And see if you're a snowflake at the end of it, you utter bellend.
Yeah. Or, all right then, let's disrespect the fallen, or let's talk about how hilarious it is to be a paedophile, and then we'll see whether free speech is still something that they're fucking desperate to hear. It's about what people are prepared to hear or not, isn't it? So the idea that you can be like, oh, I pay my money, I can say whatever I want. No, there are still I'm not that this matters, but I sort of nominally think, go about your life and whatever. There are some things that are just beyond argument, and prejudice and stuff like that. You just think this isn't a matter of free speech. This is you being a bellend or not. I don't get it. Right. Let's move on to more footballing things. Dom, Ipswich.
Yeah, so handily, considering that we're playing Ipswich at St Andrews twice in the space of less than a week, Ipswich are pretty much going to play two different teams from the sound of things. Their aim is to get out of League One this season. They're doing a pretty good job at it. They're second. They've got 3 games in hand, and if they win those, they'll be top. They are probably the best team. They certainly have the best squad, probably one of the biggest two. I'd argue they could probably name 3 different teams at a stretch that would all possibly be all right. I think they're two. I think there's very little difference between their strongest team and their second strongest team. Just going through it, player to player, they've got Paul Lambert in charge, which seemed a curious appointment, not just because he was famously a very good manager for Norwich, getting double promotion and decent finish in the Premier League before he went to Aston Villa, and his sort of career went on a decline. I suppose that's what kind of made it kind of an odd appointment, because so no one was really thinking about Paul Lambert being the kind of character who could sort of drag a club up by its heels. Club that in recent years has just sort of slowly started to fade. The Mick McCarthy era sort of ran out of steam. He was fairly unceremoniously sacked to, I think, the joy of quite a lot of this. Attempted to completely rebuild the squad that McCarthy had built, which had gotten quite old and stale, and just did it too quickly and possibly didn't bring in enough quality to stay up in the Championship, and they were relegated last season quite miserably, and it was apparent from quite early on. So they've basically had a year to prepare for being in League One, and they have shown in the opening months of the season that they've put that time to good use, assembling a very strong squad. I really like the options they have in central midfield. Just so many different, just very good footballers, I think, are all probably championship players. Flynn Downs has really come to the fore this season. He's
That's a nice
academy
name.
player. Yeah, lovely. And he's just a real sort of tyro in midfield, covers a lot of ground, very good passer of the ball, and he's just a very all-action player. They can pair him with Cole Skews. never actually tried to say that name, and it's actually quite a tougher.
Yeah.
Sort of veteran, sort of championship kind of stalwart player, holding midfielder who can keep things tight, or they can go with someone like John Nolan, who was an absolutely standout player with Shrewsbury Town at this level a couple of seasons ago. Very good set piece taker, very good driving midfielder, somewhere between sort of a box-to-box player and a number 10. And they've got Emir Hughes, who's a Wales international, who's had a couple of big injuries, but just a not very lovely passing midfielder. And they even got Andre Dizelle, who a couple of years ago everyone was talking about this guy being one of the top youngsters in the country.
As in Jason's kid?
Yeah. He's had injury issues as well. Can't really get in the team just because they've got so many good central midfield options. It's also backed up. Out wide, they've got Alan Judge. Again, he's been a very good championship player. And again, because of injuries, he's sort of had his career momentum disrupted a little bit, but a quality player for League One. Then on the other side, they've got Danny Rose, sort of a more industrious player. Hasn't really had a go in a championship, but he's sort of established himself in a team. And then you also have Guion Edwards, who has been very good at this level with Peterborough and Crawley, sort of a goal-scoring winger, but they've played him at right back and right wing back this season just because it's the only way really to get him into the side. Again, Luke Garbutt is probably more comfortable playing on the wing, playing at full-back. And I'm just basically listing loads of players. Another one to watch out for who'll probably play in the FA Cup game because he's recovering from injury is Kane Vincent-Young, who they signed from Colchester, who's a right back. He's just an absolute force of nature, just absolutely rapid. He's got great skill, great presence of mind. He scored 2 goals just storming forward from right back this season. He looks like someone who is probably a championship player playing in League One. And then their strike force, got Caden Jackson and James Norwood, who are both on 7 goals this season. Jackson is just absolutely rapid and fairly good technically, and then Norwood's sort of a bit of a goal machine. Scored, I think, 28 goals last season for Tranmere in League Two without getting an assist. He's just someone who has got a presence about him and will get shots away. And they've just got so much quality all over the pitch, and like I mentioned, they'll probably play 2 different teams across the FA Cup and league game, and still have the strongest side out of the 2 teams, I would imagine.
So in summary, who's their danger man? Yes, they all are.
even the players who won't even be on the subs bench.
Let's look forward to that one then. That's going to be an absolute joy to. How do you see it going though, Dom?
I think it's going to be quite interesting because we haven't played too many genuinely good sides at St Andrews, so I think it's going to be quite an interesting matchup to see how we can sort of impose ourselves on a game like this. I haven't really got too much of an impression of how it will go. I'm sort of quite interested to see what kind of team Mark Robbins is going to pick over these next couple of games. Now that we have players coming back, especially in attack with Biamu and Hirula. I'm just going to sit back and enjoy it, hopefully.
Nice. Anything anyone wants to add on Ipswich ahead of us going on to questions?
No.
No, that's a firm no. Paul, have you got? Paul, I've got yours. If you want me to go for them.
Yeah, go on.
I would like to start less with an answer to this question, but just to highlight your answer specifically to this question, Paul, which I really, really like. Someone said, what has happened to Bowie Bosma? Let's start off by asking, does anyone know the answer to that question? I didn't realise there was a Bowie Bosma for something to happen to.
Go on.
So it wasn't a player we sort of signed without really mentioning it for the under-23s, who was quite old and had been playing in non-league already without making much of an impact. I remember he signed from Lewis, which is near Brighton, and some of the fans mentioned, I have no idea why he's moving to a League One club. and that's seemingly been quite apparent. I don't know whether there might have been a different reason for signing him. I've heard that sometimes it's good for like an under 23 team to sign like a physical player just to help the younger players get into games.
Right.
But yeah, he basically hasn't been anywhere
Could they
near
not-
even the under 23 team this season.
Could they not have just kept Ivor Lawton knocking about and kicking people and stuff?
Yeah.
Like that? Yeah. I like the idea of that. What I wanted to draw people's attention to was Paul's response that says, feels like a Netflick documentary, which is less about the actual response, so much as it is the fact that you spout Netflick, Netflick, which makes me think of a streaming service that only offers one film.
Apollo 13, yes.
Yeah, that would be perfect for you, Neil. You would subscribe to Netflix for that film, wouldn't you?
It's one of those things that you get something in your head, you quickly respond quickly because you're doing something else, and you're like, I can't be asked to proofread this. But I'm on a football group, and there's a guy I'm a bit not really sure about. I couldn't play one week because I had to do some work, so I just sent a message saying to someone else, "You're up," and he came up going, "Isn't it you apostrophe re?" It's like,
yeah.
oh fuck! I'm
off,
in the.
yeah.
I'm doing work. I've just literally sent this as a. I want to let the guy know he can play football. I haven't proofread it. I haven't really given a shit.
This isn't my
I've just sent a
dissertation, yeah.
Yeah, it's like you either appreciate the joke or you don't. If you don't appreciate it, jog on.
I just like what's it. I just like the idea of Netflix more than I really want. What I wanted to know is whether you would have spout it with an S at the end for the full. If that was your idea of how that was, like how formal that would be. Netflix.
I'm going on strike now.
Right, okay, let's see what everyone else is saying. Thomas Murden is saying, is Mugfadzian this season's Rod McDonald? My question to you is, what does Thomas Murden mean? Because I don't know what this season's Rod McDonald would be.
Yeah, well, that's kind of assuming that Rod McDonald was bad, but...
Because it wasn't Rob McDonald okay, then we sold him and we were like, that's a bit odd.
He just fell up. He was another player where he kind of had a couple of bad games near the end of the season, and that was enough for people to think, right, that happened close to when we got rid of him, so he is a bad player. It's like, no, he had a good season. He was dominant for the first half, and that was in our promotion year, wasn't it?
He got Dom Hyams, didn't he?
Yeah, pretty much.
At a point where we were a bit like, okay, so apparently Dom Hyams come in now, and then, but I suppose that worked out reasonably well in the end, didn't it?
I've got to be honest. I was always a bit like, Dom Hyam is a really good player who continually impresses with just getting better. He's just one of those guys, and it sort of frustrates you sometimes when you see players come through and you're like, oh, you've plateaued. Hyam is just one of those guys he's not amazing.
Oh, is he gone?
Oh, sorry, press wrong one. He's just a good player who's developing into an extremely proficient League One centre half and you wouldn't be surprised if at the end of the season, if he didn't get promoted, that someone decided he was an option for the Championship.
Yeah, still very, very young as well, isn't he? Is he, 22, 23?
Something like that, yeah.
I want a one-word answer off everybody. Go around the room, starting with you, Paul. Mason or McCallum?
Mason.
Neil?
Mason.
Dom?
Mason.
Yeah, it's a full house. It's a full house of
it.
Masons. Thank you, Richard Hanna, for that question. I think that was a good question. Paul Round asks, how important is Liam Kelly to us, Neil?
Yeah, he's big time. I mean, the difference of him in the team and not on the team is really stark, I think. And I never really noticed it in previous seasons, but the back end of last year really stepped up, and then this year it's just it's a different level. Him being captain, he knows the score. Big fan here, big fan.
And Phil Arnold asks, will Jamie Allen replace anyone and who? Dom, thoughts?
Oh, that is such a different question. One thing I was thinking earlier in the pod is, we've got Jamie Allen coming to fitness, and we already have quite an abundance of central midfielders. Going up into January, we've got Liam Walsh on loan. Do we sort of sacrifice Walsh to try and get in like another attacker, do we like to try and find that like Gibello stand in? Would you make that move?
If it was a choice of letting Walsh go back and using that money somewhere else? Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I like Walsh. I feel like I like Walsh more than most. I feel like he's been a victim of us being a bit shapeless, and I think we've got 4 central midfielders all being asked to play in a square and sort of just do their best. I feel like they would be better suited to having defined roles, or they have and they're just not doing them very well, but I feel like it's probably the latter. And I think Walsh suffers for that more than anyone else, because I'm never quite clear what it is that he's doing, apart from in the last few games, which is needlessly giving the ball away. But that, yeah, we've got an abundance of options, haven't we, in that position? You even feel like really Callum O'Hare could drop back into that push, couldn't he? So I'm not sure whether we would need it, but I feel like, yeah, if that was the eventuality that we could get one more player in on loan if we let him go back, then yeah, I would.
Although I would just say, if you lose Kelly, that's the issue for me. If you lose Kelly, there's only one player in my mind who can play that role, that the deepest of those roles, and that's Walsh. Anybody? I don't know enough about Allen, but I presume he's not that guy. He's not that kind of player, is he? Who's just going to sit and be your main man in midfield. And while Walsh is no Liam Kelly, I don't see anybody else being able to perform the Liam Kelly role if he's not around.
I get the impression
Plus,
more than
Allen's
anything it would be a waste of Allen more than anything else, wouldn't it? Who I think is probably a bit more able than just. The main thing with Allen is that you're hoping that if he comes in, he adds more goals to us, doesn't he? And so asking him to sit back would be problematic. Sorry, Paul, you said he's tiny.
He's tiny, absolutely tiny.
Is he?
Yeah, I was really surprised by how tiny he was.
Oh.
They're all tiny, aren't they, Allen's? Oh, recent ones anyway.
I know we didn't
Sorry,
discuss him.
qualify that for us, Neil, for a second.
I'm not sure I can. I can't think of one single. No, who am I thinking? Who's one at Liverpool? The old one. Joe Allen?
Joe Allen, yeah.
That's it. There we go. That's
I
all
think
I'm
Joe
thinking.
Allen is average,
Lily Allen?
right, isn't he? Yeah, Lily Allen.
Regular.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't really thinking Lily Allen when I made that reference, but yeah, I'll go with it.
Allen.
Clive Allen. Here we
Clive Allen.
If anyone knows anyone else called Allen, do email in.
Anyway, sorry,
yeah.
I know we didn't really discuss Rochdale. I thought Josh Eccles had a really good game.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously, there is something. Not saying that he's the replacement for Kelly if Kelly got injured and Walsh went back, but I did think he acquitted himself in that defensive midfield role pretty well.
I've been unfortunate to watch quite a lot of the EFL trophy games or whatever they've called, and he's featured an awful lot in there. I just think he looks like he's going to be really nice, and as well, he's the sort of player that I really don't get on with watching, in that he's kind of a shuffly passer, a sort of Jorginho type player, and I never want to watch football less than a team that plays like that. But he just looks really confident and adept, doesn't he? He just looks like he's going to be, hopefully, just a really nice player.
And he's not tiny.
No. There we go. That's tininess update. As we go through, if you can remind us how tall everyone is, that would be good. So, are we going to do any more? Katie asked this question. I thought this was a good question. Is Jody Jones actually going to make the difference that everyone is saying he is? Is he going to be a major part of it after 2 ACL injuries and not a great level of fitness?
We've answered this on a previous pod. I don't think there should be any expectation on him. Just get him fit, get him playing games. But in terms of pressure, you just bark up a different tree. Just let the guy get back to playing some sort of level of football before you start pinning our promotion hopes on a guy who hasn't really played any proper football for 2 years.
Perfect. That answers that very adeptly, I think. Right, anyone else got anything that they want to add before we let everyone go home?
I've got a question for the pod. Who's closer to getting onto the first team pitch? One of us four or Castanier?
I have a strong. Although he played today, didn't he, and scored in.
Did he?
Yeah, we. It looked like a really interesting game actually. Morgan Williams got sent off on 50 minutes. We won 3-1 or 3-2, and the goal scorers were Biamu, Castaneer, and Jamie Allen, which might be my ideal trio of goal
There we go,
scorers at
yes.
the club. Yeah, so I would have quite liked to have seen that. You do wonder, what would have to happen now for Castaneer to get on the pitch. Yeah,
I just sort of like the idea of him for a while. I thought, well, can't we just put him up front like for the last 10 minutes? And even that doesn't seem like a viable option now, does it? So you sort of think, where is he going to play him?
I think he's going to go full Kyle Walker. The next time we see him, he's going to come on in goal.
I just like the idea of them sat in their office, sort of like Vivash and Robbins and whatever, just being like, what are we going to do with this lack of attacking options? And Castaneer just keep walking past the window over and over again, just sort of occasionally knocking on it and just looking at it and being like, yeah, we're going to have to do something because we've got literally no options. Yeah, I mean, I'm glad that he's nowhere near the team again now because it means that I can enjoy the idea of him. Because whenever he was getting on the pitch for that period, it just made me... all of the fun I was having of the sort of notion of what he might be like was completely destroyed by the reality of it and the kind of the level of selfishness and inability from him. But we were assured, weren't we, that he's been his own worst critic and that he's unfit and everything else, but that I'd be very surprised. Surprised and delighted as always if it turned out that he went on to have a successful COV career. I'm not sure I see it. Poor old Castaneer. What
Well, that was a bit of a negative note to end it on, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, this is the right place, isn't it? He's
Well,
very
let's
much...
not end it there because I've got something else just to quickly. Because we were just talking about height, and I was getting interested. This who scored that Dom brought to all our attention. I was just having a quick look at like height, but I'm not actually going to talk about height. I'm going to talk about weight, and I cannot believe that it's got as our heaviest player Liam Kelly, who apparently is 25 kilograms heavier than Brandon Mason.
Castaneer must be like 40 kilograms heavier than me. I mean, that guy's a unit and a half. If he's not because he's taller than Kelly. I mean, the guy's wearing triple XL shit. Like, poor Sky Blue Sam has had to reduce his stuffing so Castaneer could take his shirt. I mean, come on.
I will. One of your finest utterances, Paul. I always remember the first time we saw Nazon run out onto the pitch, and you took one look at him and just went, "That is very much an XL man in an L shirt." Not even necessarily fat, was he? But just that was a guy that was just like, "I've worked for this. I'm going to make sure everyone sees it." But Neil, I don't know whether we've got chance for sort of 2 minutes of impromptu weight quiz from WhoScored.com. So you said that Kelly is the weightiest.
Kelly is the weightiest. Give me what? Do you work in kilograms? Could you have a guess?
I would have thought no more than 80 as an absolute maximum, but I would presume quite a lot less than that.
88. They've got
no. That's ludicrous.
Who's compiling this?
That would suggest.
So what's Castaneer then?
He's down as 80, a flat 80.
Yeah,
but above him, you've got Biamu, Bakayoko, and McFadzean, all in the 82-85 region.
But this is the thing. That means that Liam Kelly would have to be... Bearing in mind that Liam Kelly presumably is roughly the same height as me. That would mean that Kelly was fatter than me, and that's unequivocally not the case.
Can you imagine 88 kilogram Liam Kelly, what that would look like?
Well, that would make him about a stone heavier than I am. And I'm a heavily proportioned gentleman at the best of times. There's no way he's 88 kilos. Who wrote that? Who wrote that? His ex-girlfriend.
If you put it in BMI, does he come out as a beast?
Oh, he would. Yeah, he would do for. No, actually, I think he'd be on the top end of overweight. I think.
Oh, hang on. This is ridiculous. Right, here we go. So Brandon Mason, 63 kilograms. They must have taken that when he's 13. That's ridiculous.
No, I think he probably is. He's only wee, isn't he?
But he's a beast. He's a right muscle man, isn't he? He's crazy. But here's the one. Just 2 places above him at 70 kilograms, 6'2", Dominic Hyam. What? Who is apparently lighter than Jamie Allen.
No.
What is this? Is like Football Manager stats. This is like me in my back room.
If Joe Allen's heavier than Dominic Hyam, then he's Danny DeVito in disguise. It's just like that's not happening. I'm sorry. On the Biami thing, just going slight tangent. he's the loveliest man at the football club. He was obviously in the stand against Rochdale because he elbowed someone in the head in the previous home game, and he was happy to have his photo taken with everyone, and he had a photo taken with my eldest, and he was just lovely, and big up for lovely footballers.
Liam Kelly's BMI, guys. Bearing in mind that was what we wanted to know. So I've got him down as being, let's have a look, 1.87 metres apparently. Neil, I don't know whether you've got that on yours, which apparently makes him taller than Biamu.
That's bullshit.
No,
that's not right.
That's not right. That's not right.
Who has made this thing? He's like the Incredible Hulk or something.
So yeah, apparently Liam Kelly has taken us all by surprise by being nearly 7 foot tall.
Did he send in Tyson Fury as a joke? You go and do my weight and height, Tyson. It'll be funny when it comes on the internet.
So if he is 1.87 meters, then he is still overweight, but he's on the very borderline between normal weight and overweight. If he's what I think, which would be about 5'9" maybe, then he's on the borderline between overweight and obese, which again I haven't noticed from Liam Kelly thus far this season. That is one incredibly well-fitting shirt if he's hiding that sort of girth. Right, okay. I feel like I'd like to know more about that, but I feel like maybe we'll save this as another thing. 1.87. I've got Wikipedia reporting the same thing. This is absolutely insane. That's not possible at all. Right, okay. Any final thoughts on player BMI or anything else of that nature?
I'll keep that for next week.
Okay, that's exciting. Dom, thank you very much.
Cool, yep.
Paul, thank you very much.
Cheers, lads.
Neil, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.